Welcome to the Sunshine Study. It's joyous to be with you. I'm Dr. Rebecca, the Lifejoy coach and author, and I help build joy, resilience, wisdom, and courage with the Lifejoy toolkit to transform burned out areas of our life into some balanced living, some blessings, some beauty, and some bravery. So welcome. It's joyous to have you. So today I thought we would talk about how to deal with situations and people that are not always joyous. And I work a lot with one-to-one life coaching and counselling sessions and clients, and we deal with this all the time. And there are repeated lessons and insights that I'd like to offer you for dealing with what most people would think of as negative people or even toxic. And we all have them, and we can be as joyous, as hopeful, and as optimistic as possible, but we also need to be realistic. So I hope this will help you have more peace and more detachment and therefore more joy. So it's sort of circular in that you're dealing with unjoyous negative people, but by dealing with them, you will create more joy, I hope. So the first thing is, clients often come to me and they start with the same kind of sentence. They say, something happened and it's not very big or important, but it's really upset me. And then they're sort of a bit cross with themselves for being upset, but they also know it's really wriggling at them. Now it's wriggling at them because it needs addressing. And things come up in our psyches and in our lives and our emotions because they need addressing and mending. Now, I don't talk about healing very often, but I like mending, improving, making things a bit less bad. And we can nearly always do something to try. Sometimes we succeed wonderfully, but it's the effort that matters. So I have 10 plus tips for dealing with negative people. Think about this. It's not you, it's them. Now, everybody, you know that phrase, it's not you, it's me. But think about this, is you may have just collided into them. Remember that. And that it's actually nothing to do with you, but you may have irritated them, triggered them, reminded them of something, or just, been in the orbit of trouble. So you may just be a bit of collateral damage. Don't forget that. It may not be proactive persecution, nastiness, or vindictiveness. It may just be a blunder. So keep that in mind. And remember, there's always a hierarchy of things that happen. Is it a mild frustration? Or is it horrifying? And there's a whole trajectory there. If you think about classifying the situation wisely and with as much detachment as possible, you'll manage better. And sometimes I suggest to clients that they tell the story in the least negative way possible, making allowances and justifications at one end, and then telling it in the worst possible way at the other. And probably the truth will lie in the middle somewhere, and we might have some part in it. We probably do, maybe not very big, but if you can have that perspective, you are already much more powerful. So it may be absolutely nothing to do with you. Be reassured, because it very, very often is nothing to do with you. Remember that. Number 2, it may well affect you even if it's not your fault and it's nothing to do with you. So therefore, what can you control about it affecting you? So do you have a little toolkit of coping strategies? And I love the idea of a toolkit or a kit bag or a rucksack or a handbag or whatever, or a filing cabinet of little things that help you recover from a knock. If you think about that, an emotional knock. So I like going in the shower. If somebody's been unpleasant to me, I often wash it off. Shower, a stroll. Can you talk to your best friend or your greatest ally? Can you talk to a professional? So have some steps in place that will help you rather than comfort you in a negative way. So don't rush to drink something, eat something, spend something, take it out on somebody else. Do something to compensate that is good for you and other people. So think about that. It might be a run, a stroll, a swim, a garden, a donation. And when I've had, shall I say, significant doses of negativity, I have then been absolutely spurred on to do something mega generous. And every now and again, I've told somebody, oh, I've done this because something happened, and they've looked at me with incredulity. And I think, no, I'm countering this. I don't often tell people, but a big random act of kindness or an increased regular donation or something to just counter that. It's a powerful thing to do. So you need to shield yourself. Somebody's shown you who they are in that moment. It may not be who they are all the time, but now you know. You can't pretend not to know. So you need to shield yourself, protect yourself, and prepare in case it happens again. Now, there are a myriad of ways to do that, and we could have 10 videos on each. But if you're prepared with logic, firm compassion, you are much less likely to be winded. Because a lot of trauma comes from flight, fright, freeze, or fawn. And remember, a lot of us try to put things right and people please, which is not always a bad thing. Making peace is lovely, but you've got to make peace with somebody who's willing to make peace. So remember this. If you know you have to have an interaction with somebody who's negative or nasty, negative, is very different from being nasty. Somebody might be saying to protect you, that might not work. You need to be extra safe. That's a loving negativity in some ways. So think about the source that it comes from, how it's expressed, and the intention behind it. And also remember that people have different ways of speaking and communicating, and they might not think they're being rude. Remember that. They have very different manners or upbringing from you, or expectations and assumptions. So you do need to prepare. And if you've got some good sentences ready, you are much stronger. So the first thing to do is sometimes to say nothing and just let them. Second thing is to say something, because you're not going to let them. And thirdly, the thing is to say, are you unwell? Is everything all right? You don't seem like your normal self. Or, that was a bit sharp. Are you okay? So, did you mean that? I don't understand. Could you explain some more? So you ask the questions. That's an important step. Now, if you've done those things and you need to be combative, which is not always ideal but necessary, is you can say something like, I know you're a good person. I'm sure you didn't mean it to sound abrasive, aggressive, negative. What can we do? How can we offer this? You start asking lots of questions about what they can do. And also you can say something like, look, I don't want to make your life more difficult. We have to solve this together. So find some good sentences that always work, always help, but that are said firmly but kindly. Don't you lose your rag. The next thing is, let go of your expectations and assumptions. Just let people be where they are, knowing that why they are there will have an influence. So people often have lacked childhood discipline, and that just goes into adulthood because they haven't got enough self-discipline or manners or thoughtfulness, or they're very focused on themselves, or they've been used to getting away with what they do, or they've been used to bullying and getting away with that and working. So just think about that. Is somewhere somebody didn't just quietly chastise them when they were 5 and should have just had a quiet word to say, no, don't do that. And now they're 35 and they're your boss and they're not good. But work around them. Find somebody who isn't negative. Find somebody who's enthusiastic, positive, reliable, and good at their job. But then find out the motivations of the negative person and try and work around that. I know you want us to do well. I know you want this to go well. So if you think about their motivations and then be strategic about it, sometimes that's the best way to do it. A very powerful thing to say is, I know you won't want this to go badly. I know you will want to protect yourself. I know you will want to do this well. I don't want there to be an inspection, an audit, an appraisal, investigation where you come out badly. So if you just think about that, it's a very wise strategy. Now, I've put here lack of discipline, but a lack of self-awareness. So it could be, and this takes some magnanimity, so trust me on this, that you are the first person to dare to challenge them, or you're the first person who's positive that they've met in a long time, or that you're their actual first teacher because they've been spoiled. And a lot of adults are told children who've been spoiled, remember that. So maybe your example is a gift to them. So think about that. And think about why they are. They might have just had the worst thing happen to them last week and they're just trying to get through. Now, there's a phrase that you may see going around saying, everybody's bearing something, just be kind. Now, that's a very sensible thing to say, but not everybody is. A lot of people have happier lives than they have any cognizance of, and a lot of people have a lot of privilege and joy and luxury in their life, and that is a given and taken for granted. But remember, they're not in your circle for very long, potentially. Or can you remove yourself a bit or interact a bit less? And if they're really toxic and really vicious, you get out of the way, or you get a different job, or you start doing a course that will help you move away from it. You don't have to put up with it. Bad service and bad care is not acceptable. You may have to tolerate it for a while, but don't let it become endemic and all that you think you're worth. I don't know what number we're up to now, but try and understand that there'll be something that's gone on there that's either hurt them, hindered them, or harmed them. And that may be just a lack of discipline, or it may be something utterly dreadful and your heart would break if you knew. So think about that. That's a compassionate, mature approach. And then I've put here, you might be there to teach them something. Set the example. You may need to stand your ground. And one of the most challenging situations I've ever had, somebody apologized to me, and they sort of said, it was not a warm apology at first, but they did say, I've taken my eye off the ball. That's all they could bring themselves to say. But their body language told me that they knew what was going on. So when people try and apologize a bit or try and do something, acknowledge it, because you're giving them a lifeline back. Remember that. And this is also massively important with our most important relationships, not transactional ones, not professional ones, our cherished ones. We've got to give people a way back and get a way back for ourselves too. And remember that we can have bendy boundaries. Don't worry about that, but we do need some. And finally, the really brave thing for good, empathetic, kind-hearted, honourable people who are often very burned out and exhausted is find ways for it to bother you less. Now, I am still working on this. You may have a rejection sensitivity problem. Many of us do, but problems are there to be reduced. So think about ways you can let it bother you less. Can you tell it in a funny story? Can you do something about it? Can you change your perspective on it? Can you change your position? So think about that as, I'm not going to let that little trivial thing bother me. Don't let it ruin the rest of the day, the week, the month. Think about, well, that was disappointing. It's an important phrase. It was disappointing. I didn't expect it. It wasn't fair. Now what? And yet, what can I do? Powerhouse phrases. So I hope that helps a bit. I think that's more than 10. I've just looked at my notes. But remember, there's often more ways through, and you might be helping somebody when you're at your most magnanimous and magnificence. I hope that helps, my friends. And as always, it comes back to us of where we are negative, where we've been less than perfect. So a little bit of grace always helps, but a little bit of gusto does too. And also that we can count our blessings, and in doing that, bless other people and be good and be positive and constructive. And if we can't be those things because it's immensely difficult, at least we can be polite, and at least we can be realistic and do what we can. I hope that helps, my friends. I wish you lots of joyous people, and I wish that you can be a joy to all those you encounter. I am sure that you will be, my friend. So take care. Please like, subscribe, press notification. It costs you nothing, but it helps spread the joy and keeps us going. Take care. God bless. Be safe.